All right, so this is welcome to the 10-minute update. If you're watching this on YouTube, which you are probably, you should come to our live streams every Friday, every 2 weeks on a Friday. Okay, so in this update, we're going to talk about Wooting 2 Lekker Edition stuff and Deskpad mousepad stuff. So first, Wooting 2 Lekker Edition, because everybody's waiting for it eagerly. And if you have a Wooting 2 HE, then this news is also relevant for you, because the faster we get stuff done with Lekker Edition, the faster we can get stuff done for the HE. So there's a couple of things that I talked about in the last update of the Wooting 2 Lekker Edition, which concerns the EMI testing. So there's a bunch of like PCBA changes we've been making, or Jeroen has been making. And the whole reason for these changes were for EMI testing. So basically EMI testing is where they look at, does the keyboard interfere with other devices, yes or no, by electromagnetic interference, blah, blah, blah. So we did the test the first time, it failed the test, which was not good, because that means we need to spend more time on the PCBA and doing another test, weeks go by. So we made a few changes, or you made a few changes, which was called a shotgun approach, where they just make a bunch of different changes to the PCBA, and it's kind of like, pray to God that it works out this time, because it's very hard to determine what is exactly influencing it. So the second time I went through the test, this EMI pre-test, it passed, which is great, because that means no delays on the PCBA anymore, and final drawing could be made and passed, and now we can make the final PCBA that will be sent to the certification labs. And at the certification labs, they can give it FCC, CE certifications, and we can, officially sell the keyboard legally. So that's really great, but it takes some time to make the PCBA, and we think it will be done by the end of November. Everything will kind of come down, like everything will be kind of done at the same time that we want to do the DVT. So originally we wanted to do DVT, which is the design validation test. This is the point where we have a final assembled keyboard, and it goes through like a humidity test, it goes through a salt bath test, it goes through a temperature test, it goes into, I don't know, we already did the box testing, like packaging testing. I don't know if they're going to do that again, but a drop test. It's also when it goes to the labs for the certification, all these different tests to see, I think they call it like operational tests or something. So that's a DVT, and that's the one step before we do the trial production, because this is the last moment with a small batch of keyboards. You can really look at, okay, is there any component that has an issue? Is there something we need to be worried about? Something we need to watch out for before you start mass producing this keyboard and you have like massive amounts of defects. We don't expect any big issues with DVT because we've made this keyboard before, etc. And most of the stuff is in the switch and the PCBA, which we are very familiar with by now. Okay, but the DVT was originally by the end of October. Well, I'm talking about DVT. It hasn't happened yet, and that's because the PCBA was not done yet. There's another thing though, is I also touched on this on the last update, is that the mold so we all know that we had to modify the Wooting 2 mold entirely, like one whole side of the mold had to be exchanged for a whole new one, which we finished, and it arrived at our new assembly factory, which is great. But as I talked about in the last update, is at the assembly manufacturer, they still wanted to make a few little changes. Now, it happens to be that this assembly manufacturer is also a mold manufacturer, so they're able to make small changes, but not like huge changes, because they're not the original makers of the mold. The small changes, however, are a bit more than what we thought. We thought originally, and this is also what they were planning to do, they would just change some of the standoffs that's inside the case. This is where you put in the screws. They would change the shape a little bit, and they would add like a chamfer on the inside so it fits better with their standard screws. Otherwise, we had to make and buy a whole new type of screws. So they thought they'll just make the small change. However, when they received the mold, they did like a trial run. They tested the injection, inspected the mold, and they found out that the mold had a few issues. One was that one of the cooling systems was not working anymore or something like that, which is very unusual. I mean, it sounds a little bit unusual because that basically means, I don't know if it means they can't operate it or they cannot operate it for a long time. Anyway, it needs to be fixed as well. Then the second thing is they wanted to add gas-assisted injection to the mold. And gas-assisted injection is basically, while they inject the plastic, they also inject literally gas that goes through a pipe that is inside the design, which kind of helps spread the plastic, which helps with the flow of the plastic in certain areas. So the shrink rate decreases and the consistency, the quality of the case improves. So it comes to the tolerances on the edges. If you turn around the bottom case, it's really hard to see, but the shrinkage will go away in some areas. So overall, it improves the quality of the bottom case. I'll talk more about that in the blog. Anyway, what it means is that we need to make these mold changes. That happens on the 15th of November, which is later than what we'd wanted and what we were told before. And that will also finish by the end of November. So by the end of November, we have all the purchased goods coming in. We have the PCBA for the DVT ready. We will have the mold ready so they can do the injections for DVT. So we expect DVT now to happen at the beginning of December. And I think with DVT we're not going to have any particular issues. So that's all good. Then the last part for Lekker Edition. How many minutes are we in actually?
Way too many. Continue.
Okay. So then the last part for the Lekker Edition is that I didn't want to finish the note with, like blah, and then now DVT beginning of December. Because meanwhile, Simon, especially, but Jeroen and Simon have been working very hard on the software as well. So we've been making headways with the software. Like there's no time, like we're not waiting for stuff to just, happen and just sitting backwards and, just wait until this next step happens. So Jeroen and Simon have been working on the software, and there's this big thing with the software, which is it's too big to really discuss right now until we have some more concrete stuff, but it really comes down to, because we have more memory on the keyboard, it kind of made Jeroen, Simon, and Erik rethink about how can we deal with profiles, and specifically how do we deal with profiles on the keyboard? How do you interact and make use of profiles? How does that happen on the keyboard? How does it happen in utility? And how can you get more from the keyboard profiles? So there will be kind of like a whole rehaul of the profiles and how you interact with it, which will allow you to do a lot more cool new stuff. But it kind of needs to be figured out how we're going to visually present it all, which is the tricky part. But that is probably going to be a big part of the new utility release when the Lekker Edition arrives at your front door. So I think I feel excited about that part because it gives like a whole new fresh feeling to the keyboard, especially if you already have a Wooting 1, Wooting 2, and then you get the Lekker Edition. It's like, bam! Fresh utility. So that was it for Lekker Edition. I'll hand it over to Erik for Deskpad, Mousepad.
Deskpads and Mousepad. Yes, so last stream, Kevin and I, we touched already, we went a bit deeper into the Deskpad and Mousepad thing. It's a new product we've been working on and we're very passionate about it. Last week, or I think it was already 1.5 weeks ago, we did a poll on Discord and on Twitter, and it took a while before all the votes were in. We had to count them all, and in the end, one design was the clear winner. It turned out it's this one. Yay! From all the designs, it was even a very unfair competition because I think on Discord this design got over 300 votes. This is the newest, latest, and probably close to final version As you can see, we changed the design a little bit, changed the angle here of this graphic, and now the whole keyboard fits on the pad, and this is also very cool. We decided on what we wanted to probably have on every Deskpad in the future in the corners, and it's like a logo, a pattern of the stitching, and the name of the pattern, or the name of the cloth. The pattern is like the cloth fabric and how it looks in a very microscopic level. And this is something that is unique to every pad that has different cloth types. So this is the Deskpad. It uses our what we call classic cloth. It's like our most default cloth we developed. And then we have another Deskpad. It's also the same size, 900 by 450 millimeters, or 90 by 45 centimeters. I don't know the inches sizes on top of my head, but this one is essentially the same Deskpad, but then a very clean, minimalistic design. As a minimalistic, it's just totally black with just our logo and the pattern explanation in the top right corner. Another cool thing is what Kevin and I didn't really tackle is now we can show for the first time the mouse pad. Wow. Curious how that will look. Wow, so simple. So the mouse pad is, it's gonna be 50 centimeters by 45 centimeters on the top of my head. It's squared, it still is like, it has the same height as the Deskpad. And this one actually uses a different type of stitching for the cloth. And internally we call it performance cloth, but we don't like the name, so we're still looking for a proper name for this type of cloth. In this example it's called Control, and as you can see the stitching pattern here in the corner is also different from the classic pad because the stitching of this, what we call now Control fabric, is different. So if you have a different name for this performance cloth or control cloth for the mouse pad, then let us know, and because we're still looking for some cool ideas here.
Maybe we should describe the cloth to get some idea about what kind of cloth it is.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it in an open part, and we can have a big brainstorm session with the whole chat. What I wanted to tell a little bit about Deskpad is why it is a unique and very cool Deskpad compared to other Deskpads. And maybe you don't know, but this Deskpad has a base of silicone, like a really thin layer of silicone, and on top of that, there we laid the cloth on top. It's pretty cool because now, because of the silicone and the cloth, it sort of binds together and it stays together during production. And if you compare it to a normal Deskpad, which most of the time has like a rubber base and on top of that a cloth, that's most of the time glued on it. So what you can see is after a while those two layers stay separate because the glue cannot hold it for a long period of time or cannot hold it forever, or you have cheap Deskpad and there it's bound to happen. But with these silicone based Deskpad, it's very cool that it binds, so it's pretty durable compared to regular Deskpads. Another cool thing is you can just throw this one in the washing machine together with your clothes, and you can have like a deep rinse and it's clean again. It's very cool. But more information on that soon. I want to thank everybody who voted during this process and helped decide for the first graphic we have on the Deskpad, which is very cool. And we'll release more information soon, and we hope that we can also start selling these soon. Right, Calder?
Yes.
Nice. Well, that's it.
Thank you for joining the 10-minute update. And again, you can join the Wooting live streams every 2 weeks on a Friday. You just look at when was the last one, you add 2 weeks to it, then is the next one. See you in the live stream.
Bye-bye. Oh, don't forget to subscribe.